public?
I don't
They're
know.
doing a so-called limited beta in the fall.
I see. So there will be
yes.
a beta jacket.
So will
Yes.
the beta jacket have like
Beta
elbow
jacket.
pads?
Oh god.
How often am I gonna have to reboot my jacket? That's what I want to know.
Well, how often are you going to be tempted to root your jacket?
I mean, it better have an
Can
unlocked
I?
bootloader.
Yes, of course.
Right?
Does my jacket
Actually,
work
this-
with Project Fi?
Does the jacket have band 12 support or not? Because I can't abide by jackets that don't have band 12.
Well, to its credit, it's pretty much just like a Bluetooth transmitter and a tiny little controller that's enough to run a trackpad. Like, that's it. This might as well be Apple's Magic Trackpad built into a jacket.
Yeah, it kind of seems like that. I didn't get too close of a look at it. Okay, I guess we are ready to go. We do have a sponsor this week. We're not going to do it on the live show because I guess I could say the intro's on the live show. And we could just get it in post for the middle. So I will do the thing right now. This week's Android Police podcast is brought to you by Linode. Check them out at linode.com/AndroidPolice.
Welcome to the Android Police Podcast, your weekly audio source for all things Android. It is Friday, May 20th, 2016. I'm your host, Matthew Smith.
I'm David Reddick.
I'm Ryan Whitwam.
And I'm Cody Toombs.
So it is Google I/O week. David, you are still displaced, as I understand it.
Yes, I am at Artem's house right now.
Is Artem like 20 feet away from being on the podcast right now?
Artem is probably about 20 to 30 feet away from being on the podcast.
And he will come nowhere near the podcast.
He is in his tower office, far away, and he will not enter this room.
He doesn't podcast with the peasants.
He doesn't.
He doesn't podcast at all. But
He's up there with his. Okay, so I got to see Artem's office for the first time today. This is very relevant for Devote AP readers. He has charging stands for phones. You know, like those kickstarted ones that like have the in the micro USB port. The pegs, yes.
Oh, geez.
And he's got like 4 of them, 2 of which are running Google Analytics 24 hours a day on 2 phones.
This
It's amazing.
This does not surprise me.
Yeah, somebody going into that room would feel at the same time like it wants that they were entering an Android Candyland and sort of a nightmare. It's definitely interesting. Oh, and he has a treadmill standing desk.
Huh.
A treadmill stand, so you can walk while you.
Yes, and then he has the HTC Vive beacons jury rigged against with these like construction poles at the corners of the wall. I mean, it's actually set up quite nicely, for maximizing the coverage. But yes, it is an early adopter embodied as a room.
All right, so we have a bit of Google I/O news to cover this week, so we should probably get in. So if you guys submitted screens or emails or questions or anything along those lines, thank you. We appreciate it. But this is strictly Google I/O this week, and we're going to kick it off with Family Library for Google Play app purchases. So it is officially a thing. Of course, we've known that the ability to share apps was coming, and we had the family music. That was a thing, but now apparently it's officially here, at least as far as being announced. I don't know that you can actually use it yet, not until July 2nd anyways. So what do we know about that?
We know it's happening. It's cool because Apple has this already, and Android should have had it, some time ago. So, yeah.
So everything published after July 2nd, when the new developer agreement goes into effect, will automatically be supported by this, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then developers can opt in their older stuff.
So can they not opt out their
I
July
don't
2nd?
think
No, they
they
can't.
can. No, I mean like
They do not have the option to opt out.
Yeah, all purchases after July 2nd are covered by this, and then if a developer is feeling very charitable, they can go back and allow people who've purchased previously to use the stuff they bought with family.
Which actually
family
sounds
sharing.
fair, because I would not have been surprised if Google said it was retroactively effective and just been like,
Yeah.
meh.
Yeah. Developers have been very, very upset about that.
It's a good thing
Still
there
surprised they're
aren't-
not getting opt out though.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, because at best, the opt-out is basically just the dev giving the middle finger to customers and saying, "Oh, I don't actually want you." Kind of. It would be bad PR to use the opt-out.
Yeah, I mean, I know that like there is a tendency for people to think like, oh, this is going to be like bad for developers, but I tend to think there will be a lot of people who will buy more things because they know they'll be able to use it like on everybody's phone. And like,
potentially.
I mean, before like it would be like, I don't want to buy this because then like it's something other people want to use and then I have to buy it 4 times, so they're not even going to bother. But maybe like they'll buy a game and they're like, hey, now we can all play this game together.
I kind of feel like it's not even going to have much of an effect at all. Like one way or another, there's going to be a few lost sales here. There's going to be a few picked up there. It's not going to be that big of a shift either way.
Yeah.
The bigger thing is I think it's just going to make regular people a lot happier because they won't have to do the stupid like I have my personal account signed in on a device and we also have that second account for the whole family signed in and that's where we do all the purchases and that gets to go away.
Yeah, and that does make a lot of sense. If people are already trying to work around it, then you should, the feature needs to.
I know
rebuild.
lots of people who have shared accounts specifically for that reason.
Yeah. So yeah, makes sense. Good stuff.
All right, so next on the list is the Google Alexa competitor, the voice-controlled Smart Home Hub, which is Google's. I guess I don't even want to put a number on it. We'll just say it's their next venture into home automation. And also, it looks like a bathroom air freshener.
It does a bit. It looks kind of like a Mac Pro and like a Glade plugin. Kind of had a baby. But it's potentially pretty neat. I like the casting. The casting stuff is cool.
So the casting, I mean, basically it allows you to use this as a center point for all of your cast-enabled hardware in your house to the point where you're getting almost like Sonos level control over your audio, right?
Yeah, in theory.
The premise.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess you could say. I mean, I wasn't paying attention when they were demoing how the video casting worked, but I guess you can say throw this up on the TV, and it'll know.
They did show that, although I wonder how it'll work if you have multiple cast-enabled screens, if it'll like ask which one you want.
Right, you name them, so it'd be like casted living room and casted bedroom, or
yeah, which would be even more Star Trek. I mean, come on.
Hopefully that's actually the way it works.
I'm sure it is.
Can it simulcast to all of them? Is what I want to know.
Yeah.
Well,
because what if I want to watch a television show with my family, except all of us in different rooms?
Force your television upon one another. Yes. I think that it'll be interesting to see how they handle it. Hopefully, they do handle it intelligently, so you can just say, "I want to play this song everywhere," or "I want to play this video everywhere." Perhaps that would be pretty neat. It's a lot of potential there. Even I'm not excited about the smart home side of it. Pretty much at all. I think that requires still people to like buy other stuff and that they don't necessarily want to buy or scared of or find confusing. Whereas I'm much more excited about the voice control and then the casting integration, since Cast has proved to be very popular already, which would make it out of the box an Alexa ass kicker of fairly epic proportions.
I'll admit this is just one of those things. I don't even have a good reason for it. I just want it. Like,
oh, yeah, I want one too.
Most of the new stuff that comes out, like on Hub, I had that 5 minutes of, hey, that looks super cool, I want it, and then I got anywhere near seeing the price tag, and I was like, you know what, that 5 minutes is over. I can pass.
Well, I mean,
this
what if
I
this,
want.
What if this is? I mean, if this is $200, do you still want it?
Kind of, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's the wireless speaker. It's got the voice actions. It's got a lot of things that. I mean, 200 is high, but it's not
You know what though?
absurd
Like,
high.
is weird to me. Like, OnHub also has a speaker uh, built in, and like it obviously has Wi-Fi, and I feel like it's supposed to have home automation things. Like, it could do a lot of the same stuff, but it just doesn't.
But it doesn't have a microphone.
Um, yes, it does.
Does
I
it?
think, doesn't it?
Wait, okay, it either has the
Or no, wait,
microphone
hold
or
on, I'm
it
trying to
has
think.
a speaker.
Well,
One
it
or the
has a
other.
It
speaker.
has a
Yeah.
speaker. It definitely
Okay,
Okay,
has
oh
a
it
yeah,
speaker.
didn't have the mic.
right. Okay, yeah, because yeah, when you set it up, one of either your phone or the OnHub is making noise and the other's listening. So it must be. It
So,
must.
so what was pitched then to me is, what if the next OnHub has everything Home has, but is also a router?
That's what I was thinking.
That's the ultimate device.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like screw you if you bought the first OnHub like I did.
Yeah, the first OnHub is fast on the way to complete orphaning. It's definitely a
like
classic Google product.
like the other day I was like using the OnHub app because like I actually had to prioritize a device for once, and I was like, it's gotten a lot better. And if that USB port worked, I wouldn't even dislike it so much. But like that's still really annoying, and the fact that they haven't added any of the home automation stuff is just sort of disappointing. I don't know that I would use it, but it's just very obvious that they didn't know what to do with that device after they launched it. Hopefully, Google Home will be different. They'll actually, roll out some updates to that and like keep developing it.
Yeah, I mean, with Google, with all the improvements they're making to voice queries too, with Assistant, I think it's got a lot. I mean, obviously Alexa is very limited comparatively in what you can ask it. So hopefully Google Home, is a little more robust there, or a lot more. Let's be realistic. It's Google. It should be a lot. It should be almost infinitely better at voice queries.
But to be fair, where Google is way better with voice, it can understand sentences at a level that's blowing everybody else out of the water, but Alexa just physically does more. It has more connections. It's reaching out to a lot of things. That the announcement from the last week or this week, whatever it was, where they added integration with a few new things, that's kind of big, and Google's got to catch up to that somehow.
Yeah, and I think I guess the question comes down to, I guess how many people actually care about this versus the early adopters who are using Alexa and who request this stuff. And I think it's obvious Amazon is catering to early adopters with Alexa. They want people who are enthusiasts about this sort of thing to really get attached to the product. And I'm not saying they're doing a bad job or anything, but I think that the core technology side, I think Google has major advantages.
I'm gonna be
hard to ignore.
I'm going to be honest, I know a couple of people who have Alexas, and I don't know of anybody who is like more of a almost zealous proponent of a product than the few Alexa owners that I have.
Well,
Yeah.
they can keep using their Alexa devices. I mean, the thing about Google Home is it's even if it only does the Google stuff, that's still much more appealing to the vast majority of consumers than the stuff Alexa's doing. Like people don't like use Amazon services as much as they use Google stuff.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, I think like Cody said, a lot of it is just the integration into existing products and services that aren't Amazon products and services, where Amazon is obviously going after user requests and integrating them in a real way, like the if stuff, So yeah. But Google Home, it'll be an interesting competition. I do wonder how much it will cost. $200 sounds like a good bet, but I wouldn't be surprised. I kind of want to say $150.
I'd love to see that. I don't think it's going to happen. It just looks like such a convenient $199 price tag. It depends so much on that speaker. If that speaker is really actually like a decent speaker, there's no way it's going to be any cheaper than that.
Yeah, I guess.
All right, so one of the key components to the voice commands is this new assistant that Google's talking about at I/O this year. I admit I think the assistant thing is a little bit muddy because it seems like it's just an amalgamation of a bunch of things Google's already doing just under one name. But I guess the concept is to be able to have conversational and contextual conversations with your device in order to achieve results.
I guess it's mostly like a branding thing. I mean, Google has shown a lot of these things already. I think at I/O last year they actually showed some of the sort of like the follow-up question stuff. They're like, soon you'll be able to do this. You'll ask a question and then ask a question based on that, and and voice search will understand that. And now they're sort of showing it again and saying, no, this is now a thing called Assistant, which I guess is fine because Google kind of needs some sort of terminology for all of their voice stuff, because before everybody sort of called it whatever was convenient. And so now I guess Assistant is just going to be the thing that's built into all of these products.
Yeah, I guess they can't call it OK Google because that just turns on everybody's phones.
Yeah.
It seems like the whole reason they really can't do that. It is. It seems more like a branding effort. The new animation is nice. I guess it's the idea. Assistant makes more sense in context of something we can bring to other apps like Allo, where we can bring the assistant in. Whereas, I guess it's as good a time as any to give a name to that instead of just saying we're bringing search to the product.
Yeah, what's weird is they don't I feel like they should capitalize Assistant, make that a name, but they don't. They're just calling it the Google Assistant, which is off-putting to me. I want to call it Assistant like that's a proper noun, like that's its name now. Make it a thing.
You can do that. We'll let you.
Okay.
So you'd mentioned Allo, of course. Allo getting some integration with Google Assistant, but also existing for the first time ever, which is probably important to note. So apparently this is a new smart messaging platform because Google needs more messaging platforms. Last year I feel like was the time when we were super excited about the messaging platforms getting consolidated, and well, here we are.
Yeah, I think a year or two ago we made a graphic that showed it had the icons for all of Google's messaging things being narrowed down over time, and we're down to 2, and then we had Hangouts. We're like, okay, it's all there, and now it's they're spawning all over again. Now there's now they have Spaces. Yeah, they have Messenger and Spaces now, and then Allo they announced at I/O, and it's suddenly. I feel like the Hangouts team doesn't actually work at the company anymore. They fired everybody that works on Hangouts, and now they're just let's build some other stuff.
So according to Ron, the Hangouts team is largely composed of the Google Plus team now.
Because that seems like a good idea.
Yeah, which may or may not have positive implications for you. So yeah, it's Allo. I still like Allo. When they presented it, I was, the whole chatbot side thing, which is that's what when whenever we're saying, oh, Google's going to make a chatbot app,
yeah.
That's what Google Assistant is. Google Assistant is the chatbot.
Yeah.
And that's whatever to me. I don't really care that much. The recognizing clams linguini, all right, whatever. It's technically extremely impressive, but I'm not going to use it. I think the app overall, though, the idea that there's going to be a rich phone-based messenger that isn't Hangouts and is explicitly designed for mobile usage, which is obviously a very popular kind of way to do things right now, I think it makes sense.
Yeah, that's great, but I still would like to be able to to send messages using the same platform on my phone and my computer. But I feel like they could probably find a way to do it because WhatsApp uses the same sort of phone number first model, and they have a web app and everything.
Yeah.
So maybe next year that'll happen. Maybe Hangouts will go away and it'll just be Allo.
Yeah, what my conspiracy theory is Hangouts is going to be rebranded to the productivity communication platform, and it's Hangouts is for work and Allo is for fun. And that's...
I don't know. That just seems convoluted.
Honestly, I think Hangouts, they're going to keep it around for a while because of things like Hangouts on Air, but they're planning on killing it. This is a slash and burn plan. because Hangouts has such a bad name to it, no matter how good it gets. I mean, objectively speaking, unless you do podcasting like we do, Hangouts isn't bad. It actually works pretty well. The app is decent. I'm gonna have so many people hating me for even saying this, but it's decent. It really is. But
I mean, it is. Most of the time it's fine, but when it's not fine, it's really, really annoying and terrible. Like sometimes
but
my
all of them are like
sometimes my threads just just break in Hangouts. Like it'll just decide that it's not going to see like either text or Hangouts messages for a little bit, and I have to like
Oh yeah.
close it.
oh, you
Yeah, like
keep them
reopen it.
integrated?
Yeah, I mean,
I've never integrated them.
Yeah, so I think it's kind of the Hangouts became kind of the bloat monster that it is. That Google thought, okay, well, super integrated messaging, that's the way to go. And it turns out that the way the market's moving is no, we want good form factor and feature definition for certain use cases. And I think that Allo is so different enough from Hangouts that having Hangouts alongside for a while probably wouldn't be a big deal. It's not like it's going to stop people from using Allo.
No, I just think that what they're going to end up doing is whatever product ends up catching on, which right now Allo's the only one that's kind of likely, but whatever product catches on, they'll build on that, they'll eventually add all the same features back in, and they'll just kill Hangouts when it's convenient. It just makes more sense to get rid of the brand of Hangouts and not let some product be perpetually like 1 foot in the grave.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I still think there's a good argument for Hangouts on the enterprise and work side, because are you really going to tell like enterprise to use an app with a bunch of emoji and like whisper shout? Like, oh my God, how annoying would that be in a work environment? It would be terrible.
Okay, but Hangouts has some of that crap.
It has some of it.
It's all Hangouts. In the enterprise, Google already has Google Play, which is bad enough in the enterprise. Let's throw in Hangouts as another terrible name. They don't have a very good grasp on enterprise right now. Not for that stuff.
Yeah, and Allo also won't do like conference calls and stuff, which Hangouts will. So there's that too.
Now, do you suspect that that's coming?
Calls in Allo? I sincerely doubt it.
Well, I guess the calls are really more integrated with the Duo product that was also announced this week, which is of course video calling and extremely focused on just video calling. So it's not ADD. It's just it does this one thing in the hopes that it does it very well. But it's just one-on-one video calling.
All right, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this is a dumb name for a video chat app because a video chat app, you need to be crystal effing clear that it's a video chat app. And I get that they're saying, oh, but it's for two people. It's like, no, just say it's a Google Video Chat. Just call it Google Video Chat, be done with it. And when people see that, they'll know, oh, well, that's what that's for. And if it works well, maybe they'll use it. I think that they're trying to get a little too cutesy with it, and I think people will be like, what the hell is this? But that's just a rant about the name, I guess. The app itself looks cool for those people who video chat.
Yeah, I think maybe twice in my life I've ever used a video chat app, and I didn't particularly enjoy it either time.
Yeah, for the Snapchat generation, I guess it's much more natural, and they're used to that.
Kids these days.
These darn kids.
I'm with you. I don't video chat, and I've done it a couple times. It's dumb most of the time.
It's dumb.
It's about sharing meaningful moments, Cody.
Indeed. Though I will say, I will bet anything that at some point they will break the one-on-one video chat part. It will eventually become like split screen.
In which case,
three-person
Duo
chat.
will be an even dumber name.
Yes, they would need a new name.
Great at names.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, so the idea behind Duo is, that you can see the person calling before you even pick up, and by the time you pick up the phone, like everything's already ready to go on your end, and so the conversation feels very instant. The idea is to make video chatting as seamless as humanly possible, which I think is a directive, is a good product, idea, because it will make things feel faster and it will make it feel more natural, just kind of like picking up the phone. So I think for people who use it, use video chat, it's not a bad pitch. I just I still just always wonder, how many people. Apple has done like FaceTime statistics before, I think, in their keynotes, but I mean, I wonder how much of that is going on as a novelty versus, I know couples FaceTime a lot, especially people who live apart or something like that, but I don't know. Google's getting into a space that Apple owns pretty hard, and the only reason they don't own it on Android is because FaceTime doesn't exist on Android.
Well, so Skype lets you video chat. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not necessarily
No,
as
desktop,
clean or convenient as FaceTime, but
Oh yeah,
well,
the Skype
you
app
can do
is
it on Android, can't you?
yeah,
You
the
can.
Skype app is a monstrosity though.
Yeah, people
Well,
use
sure.
Skype for video chat primarily on PCs, and it's very good at that.
Yeah.
For the most part, but I think on mobile, I don't know how good Skype penetration is on iOS. I may be completely wrong. Maybe Skype does better than FaceTime, but I thought FaceTime was generally winning that battle.
I can tell you.
Well, there's also a dozen others like Kakao Talk or I think that one's video chat. There's a half dozen others that have been really popular, but I think they had like popularity and then just waned off into nothing.
Yeah. I can tell you this, like my my in-laws, they have my brother-in-law lives in Chicago, and my in-laws live closer by, so they use it a lot, video chatting, and they use both FaceTime and Skype kind of interchangeably. It's kind of interesting, but yeah, I think that I think that the use case of it is pretty limited personally. I've had, how long has Verizon had video calling, and I've never once even thought about using it.
Wait, you don't call other Verizon subscribers over video?
Yeah,
Your mobile
the carrier-based video calling to me is the stupidest implementation of this. Like, not only is it something that people don't often want to do, but it only works if the other person is on the same network and uses a certain phone. Like, they have to have the upgraded calling features, and it's stupid.
All right, I think we're gonna have to speed up here. We are moving dangerously slow through the IO episode.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's the IO episode. This was always going to happen.
Yeah.
So, obviously, we were hearing a lot of rumblings about Android, Google VR aspirations, potentially a new standalone VR headset, which we did not get. No standalone VR headset, at least not yet. But what Google did was decide to name their VR experience in Android, something that it totally has never used before. They called it Daydream, which, oh wait, yes, Daydream, that was the screensaver in Android.
Yeah. And now it's just called Screensaver in the new dev preview.
Yep, we actually talked to Dan Sandler about it. He seemed resigned to the fate of Screensaver. So, yeah, Daydream looks interesting. I mean, it's one of those things. VR is one of those things that you can't put it on a screen and kind of see what it's all about. You have to use it, experience it, see what kind of Google's vision is. I mean, there's an Android launcher in there, and it was in a sea of like this virtual world, which looks impressive, but it doesn't.
And it's
really
like a low poly landscape going on behind
exactly.
it. Yeah, so I mean, this is basically Google's version of Gear VR, because you're going to have a headset that you put your phone in, and the phone does all of the heavy lifting, sort of like like what Samsung is doing, and So all those rumors we heard about, like a standalone VR headset, apparently either aren't happening or were maybe going to happen before, but it just wasn't going to be ready. So they're doing this, and it's going to be built into Android N, and there will be specific specifications for Daydream-ready phones that OEMs will start producing over the coming months, and I guess we'll hear more about those in the fall. But it's stuff like a fast processor, a screen with fast refresh rates, orientation sensors, things like that. And then there will be a headset, the spec for which Google has created as well, and a controller. I don't know if we ever found out for sure if Google was going to make versions of these, or if it was just like saying, look, we created the design for this, but other people will make it.
Yeah, I'm not sure it was super clear either.
Yeah, I mean, I think we might have just posted something a little bit ago that said Google might do that,
Yeah,
but I mean, it's still kind of
he
like,
said there's going to be some hardware, so yeah. So the other thing I was kind of disappointed with about this, and I mean, I get it. They just announced that it's brand new, so it's not even really a thing yet. That it wasn't immediately just out of the box integrated with Project Tango.
yeah,
And
there
that
wasn't
they,
really any Tango stuff at I/O. It was
There
very
was.
weird.
We sat in the Tango session. There wasn't much new. It was mostly new demos, and them teasing the fact that the Lenovo Tango phone is coming, yay! But the fact, if that Tango phone, if that Tango phone was Daydream certified and also Tango ready, it's the way that makes sense.
Well,
like
I
you have
agree.
these two things, like.
But Daydream is going to be Android N, and the Tango phone is going to launch. It's going to launch with Marshmallow, isn't it?
I have no idea, but I'm still saying it's like it's peanut butter. You've made a peanut butter sandwich and a jelly sandwich, and you're like, aren't these great? And everybody's like, but don't you? You just need to just put them together. And Google's like, well, what? And,
I think
I know they want to, but it was kind of disappointing not to see.
I think probably they're worried about designing things that require Tango because that's going to be a very small part.
Yeah, but that's
of
what
the
can make
market.
VR actually compelling in a wireless form factor is absolute is augmented reality plus absolute positioning, and those are so huge.
Yes, I absolutely concur with that theoretically. I think we've talked about the same thing a few times where like it would be like rad if Tango sensors were just in phones and that was the way they were, but going out of your way to buy a Tango phone seems like something most people are not going to do.
It's so aggravating because the future's right there, and it's like, you can't have it. It's not yours. So, oh well. The Tango demos they did were cool, but getting back to Daydream, you will be actually able to build a Daydream kind of development rig yourself with a Daydream compatible phone, which isn't the Nexus 6P is compatible, right? Yeah. So what you can do, you need two phones and a laptop and a something to strap, a viewer to strap the phone into, which those I think they're making a development kit of some sort available. And then you use the second phone as the controller by putting this plastic case over it, and that has cutouts for buttons on the screen, so the screen becomes buttons. And then you have the headset, and then the laptop to something. And so people were playing with that at I/O. So
that
you will be
terrible, by the way. I just want to.
It's for developers before the actual, the first consumer hardware comes out, I guess.
Sure, I get it. Just sounds bad.
Yes.
Developers deserve good things too.
That's why they get discounts on Pixel Cs.
Oh, the lowest of blows.
So sorry, Liam wasn't here, so I had to get something in there.
Oh no, don't trust me. I've been part of the Pixel C party for the last few days. Both Artem and Sebastian, who is also here. Sebastian works on APK Mirror, but they both have Pixel Cs, and they're both on the Pixel C hype train. It's just so good, so great, fantastic.
All right, so updates were announced to Android Wear 2.0, getting some new. Pretty much the interface is new. I mean, that's pretty wide-reaching changes. The interface in 2.0 appears to be widely changed. There's also a keyboard because people apparently really want to type things on their watch.
This is what happens when you have the people who are buying Android Wear watches asking for the features. I'm
sure that Google thought, look, we're not going to put a keyboard in this. Nobody's going to actually want that. But then everybody wanted that, so they had to do it. And I'm not going to lie, I'll probably use it because there are times when I get a message I'm like, I wish I could just type like 3 words and that would be great. Alternatively, let me like manually put in replies. And I guess Wear 2.0 is going to have smart replies. I don't know if that includes the ability to like create your own or if it's always just going to be like contextual, but I mean, look, Wear needs more than voice, which is what it relies on now.
So coincidentally, I actually had to use the keyboard last night. Within like 2 hours of putting the firmware on my watch, I
But
was.
why did you have
right
to?
next
Why wasn't
to-
your phone there? Why? That's what I don't get.
I was literally right next to a room where somebody was sleeping, and the phone was on the other side of a wall. So it actually just worked out in the weirdest of coincidences. It happens. But you know what? I'm sorry. The keyboards make sense. If you're in the middle of a subway and you want to reply and you don't have your phone handy, whatever, it comes up. Everyone knows it happens. It's not supposed to happen often, and there's always the argument you should be able to reach your phone, but it happens.
Sometimes it's in my pocket, and I'm sitting down, and I don't want to like get it out and like get all good into the phone thing. I'm doing something else. It would be nice to just like real quick on the watch, do the thing, and be done with it. So I get why they're doing this, and I know it's going to be suboptimal because the screen is tiny, but it needed to happen.
So what else did they do in this thing? So you have the rotary app selector now, right?
Yeah.
Is it rotary, or does it just sort of like curve down along
Well,
the side?
yeah, it's just curved. It just rolls them along the side of round watch.
I guess
faces.
yeah. So I guess on a square watch, it's not going to be any different.
No.
Oh, okay.
It does seem like the selection is a little bit tighter. Like you see more apps on the screen at any given point in time.
It is.
Demo
It's
that I saw.
way tighter.
Yeah, that's probably good. Yeah, the app list now is kind of a pain to use. Okay, and so they're also doing this thing where you can put information from apps that are installed on the watch onto a watch face that would not usually support like additional data. So it's sort of like widgets for your watch face, which I think is pretty rad because there are some very nice looking watch faces that I would like to use, except that they do like 0 additional things. And I kind of feel like if I'm going to wear a smartwatch, I would like to at least have some sort of like smart data on the watch face. So that'll be interesting to see like how well that works. I mean, I assume like developers need to add support like to the apps to actually put the little like widget things on there, right?
Yeah.
I would think so, yeah. I'm interested to see if things like Facer or Watchmaker or Fuji Black try to do this.
No reason they won't.
Yeah.
This is practically like hand feeding them a whole big new feature that they'll definitely do. There's no reason not to.
Yeah.
Right.
But overall, I love the changes that they're making, with one exception. I hate that a physical button is taking over the back button. That seems so dumb to me.
Wait. Explain this.
Yeah. So instead of the swipe right to dismiss, you just press the button.
So you can't swipe to go back now?
No.
That seems not smart. But I mean,
I
it's
feel
a
like
developer preview, so maybe they'll change that.
I feel like this is a move to try to not limit the interactions you have within the app itself. So if you have functions in your app that make sense to do swipe right, you were limited to the point where you couldn't do it. I don't know if that's a good reason.
I mean, well, I guess just like off the top of my head, that would probably mess up the keyboard because the keyboard has swipe input.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't really like that. So wait, so watches that don't have like an easily accessible button
Like
are
the
probably
Zen
not
Watch, the
going
original
to-
Zen Watch would be practically unusable.
or the first few watch. Huh,
Yeah,
interesting.
that's the big question, is what's going to happen with those.
They were not going to be able to update every watch forever, and I'm pretty sure that Wear 2.0 is where they're going to sort of draw the line and say, if you have a first-gen watch, it's not ever going to get another update. Which
It's
is probably
starting to look
fine.
that way.
It's been it's almost 2 years since Wear came out. It's probably fine to like say, look, this version will be like fresh and new, and everything's going to be different.
So actually, one thing I've noticed, I said in comments to somebody that I saw no reason that an update wouldn't make sense for the older watches because they're running mostly the same hardware across like dozens
I know
of watches.
That's very telling.
But
that they haven't really advanced the hardware at all.
One of the things I noticed very quickly on the Huawei watch, and I know this is a preview, so I'm sure it will get better, but this is one of the most recent watches on the market, and seriously, this preview runs slow. Like there's spots that it's just molasses slow. So they
I've heard
Yeah,
that from
that's-
Artem as well.
that-
Artem's been complaining about it, so it's definitely
Yeah,
not.
I mean I mean that seems like something that could very easily just be unoptimized depth preview
Yeah.
stuff.
Right.
Well,
But,
that
I
was
mean-
going to that was actually my follow-up question was going to be how is it on the Huawei Watch? Should I install it? And now I think maybe I probably should.
Because it takes so little time to do setup, because I mean it's Wear. What's the worst that happens? You spend 20 minutes with installing.
I think I probably I set up a Wear device on average every other day because every time I switch a phone, I'm like,
Right.
I don't have a watch paired with this one. Well, let me get one out and reset it. And
Yeah, it's I would try it just because honestly, if you overlook a couple specific things, this is a super cool step forward for Wear. Like I said, I don't like the back button thing, and there's a couple other little things that are kind of glitchy and weird and obnoxious, but overall, like the new watch face, which I want to talk about in a second, but like that alone is just a really cool thing to play with. But yeah, just about watch faces. If anything, the thing I love most about this is the watch face is now like sacrosanct. When you get notifications, they don't just sit as a bar across the bottom, like eating up a part of your screen. When I go out at night with friends, I can't like look at my watch without seeing that bar because I always have some new notification coming in.
that was a setting in the Wear app before. You could turn that on or off. Is it just not a thing anymore?
As far as I know, it's not. You just get the watch face like 100% of the time, and it's when you swipe. Oh, well, when a notification comes in, it gives you like a little animation, which the animation looks great, but the rest of the time, like you don't see anything unless you swipe up to look at it.
That's interesting. I don't know that I really like that because there are some watch faces I use that I like to have the preview at the bottom. Like watch faces that specifically like are designed to not put important things down there. It would be weird if they got rid of it altogether. It's like right now, if you go into the Wear app, you can turn card previews on or off. That will be interesting if they just straight up got rid of it. But I mean, I can understand that because in most situations you don't want that, especially on a round watch because most watch faces, are analog and that blocks half of the watch.
Yeah, I haven't played with it enough to be sure whether or not the card preview is a setting, but I don't think it is.
Yeah.
Again, previews, so who knows if that'll change.
Right. All right. So we also had some Android TV news to announce this week, and we could probably burn through this pretty quick because I believe that we've seen some of this stuff in various teardowns and stuff like that. But Android TV picture-in-picture support is coming, live recording, HDR, and and new apps. So that's basically what we're getting from Android TV, along with Xiaomi's Mi Box, which was also announced. So.
Yeah, the Mi Box looks very mediocre, but
It looks
if
like
it's
yes,
cheap
the
enough-
mediocre box.
if it's cheap enough, then I guess fine, whatever. Like it has
I would not be surprised if it's $99.
that's too much.
What?
Yeah.
I kind of picture this being a Razer Forge, basically.
But it's 4K.
One of those products that
4K
could be
99
okay,
is
but
fine.
I feel like it's going to be mega slow though.
Am I the only one who thinks that 4K with 8 gigs of memory is a problem?
It's not because okay. Me and Artem actually had a discussion about so how do people use Android TV? And yeah, sure, some people may like use it for games, but those people don't fucking matter. Everybody's watching TV on their television, and so no, nobody's using a ton of storage on it. Not a large group of people, and if you are, there's probably going to be a micro SD slot for adaptable storage, and you can do that if your heart's content. Not that this will have a chipset that will play games well anyway. I'm sure.
Right.
It doesn't.
They are pushing a game controller for it though.
Well, so did the Nexus Player.
Yeah, and look how that worked out for
yeah,
them.
that's true.
What price did that launch at again?
Did it?
What's
Was
that?
it 99?
Yeah, it started at 99.
Yeah.
Plus what, 35 for the controller, something like that.
It was expensive. Look, I mean, I'm not saying that like if you could say like, look, these are the features you get and it costs $99, you might think, hey, that sounds okay. But then you realize how many people are really like gonna stream 4K video, and then everybody else, won't they just buy like a Chromecast or a Roku stick or a Fire TV
Well, the
stick?
whole point is 4K on the cheap. That's it for me. Like I'm just thinking 4K on the cheap and HDR, so it supports HDR TVs. So there's that.
I feel like 4K TV on the cheap becomes more of a concern when 4K displays are a little cheaper.
And they're getting there slowly.
They're not bad. I guess
Oh,
you could
they
probably
totally
get you could get a reasonably sized 4K set for like, I don't know, 600 or 700 now. Probably.
Yeah, they're not too bad anymore.
I guess my point is if I'm paying $700 for a television, I don't know that I care as much about how much I don't know. I just don't feel like I care as much about how much I'm spending on the box that I've plugged in. Most likely that television is going to have the services that support 4K built into it anyways, because you're not going to buy a 4K television that doesn't have smart functionality, I don't think.
I mean, I might, because I don't.
Well, if you can find
most smart TV
if you
interfaces
can
are
find
terrible.
one that's worth owning, then you probably would, yes. But who's making them?
Well, Vizio's making those things that are just cast enabled, like they don't have like their own smart TV stuff.
Well, I'd be all right with that.
Yeah, and I was actually talking to people that work on Cast and TV, the head of Android TV, and a guy that like is some kind of person in Cast. I'm sorry, he might run Cast. I'm not actually sure.
Just some cast guy.
But yeah, Cast is definitely taking that approach of they want all the partners they can get, including Android TV. I kind of feel like Cast looks at Android TV just as a partner and not as like a, anything else than that. But although they, the integration is tighter and, but yeah, it's interesting. I feel like Android TV and Google Cast are very much the A/B test, and it's turning out that like the peanut butter jelly situation, Android TV plus Cast is probably kind of the best of the worlds to have so far.
Unless you stream stuff from Amazon.
Yes.
Yeah. So I know this is slightly veering off topic, so I'll keep it quick, but I honestly don't understand why the latest Chromecast, or at the very least I assume the next Chromecast will be this, why don't they basically just make something that's kind of like the Nexus Player? It's mostly cast, but it could also have a remote. Plain and simple, make it cheap. It doesn't have to be that powerful. It doesn't have to be a good gaming thing. But it's Android TV under the hood. You can use it that way if you buy a controller for it, but most of the time it's just another Chromecast. That's basically what Android TV is today, but in set-top box form. There's no reason not to just make it simpler.
Yeah, but that would be an Android TV, and talking to the guy who runs Android TV, basically he wouldn't say they would never make another box, but the idea was like, listen, all these people are making boxes and TVs, why we got to make a box and a TV,
Yeah, well, I'm kind of with Cody on this though. Like what there isn't right now, is the Android TV equivalent of a Roku streaming stick.
Yeah, I understand that definitely, and I think that's a good niche, and I would not be surprised if Google maybe is working on that with a partner or something, and that maybe the Xiaomi Mi Box is kind of the first step in taking Android TV more down market from third parties. I'm guessing probably some of it too is, for example, the Roku 4K I think has some performance issues, so I think there's probably some, waiting for the silicon to downsize it in a way that's not going to be sucky, I guess.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I would not be surprised if they're very much wanting to get there. But yes, it is a gap, definitely.
Yep. All right, so let's talk about Android Auto, and more specifically, just Android in an Auto, because both of those things were talked about or demoed in some regard at I/O. So Android Auto is getting some new functionality, and then David, did you get a chance to check out the Maserati demo with Android running in the dash?
I checked out all of the Android in the car thingies. Basically, on the auto side, what was going on is so you had four things basically. Number one, you had Waze integration now, which is good. People use Waze, they like it. It has your Waze buttons that you have to fucking use a slide out menu for because and so you'll get that, which is good. That's the second mapping application to come to to Auto, and you'll notice that mapping application is also owned by Google. That's not a coincidence. And the second thing is there's now a standalone phone mode for Android Auto. People have been asking for this, and I feel like that's 95% of the reason Google built it. Was just the fandom over Android Auto and people wanting to have the experience. I can understand why people want to try it, but the idea that this is, appreciably better than any other car mode app is ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I mean, Android Auto isn't even that good when you look at the functionality. I think the main appeal is having it in your dashboard and just having it more like integrated into the car. Yeah, just like running it on your phone. Like I don't care. Who wants to do that?
Completely agree. But some people have been asking for it.
Just to have a button in the steering wheel.
Yeah, exactly, and this will not work with that. To be clear, it will not work with your steering wheel buttons, the phone version. Period. The Google's like, nope, so that won't work anymore. The other thing they announced was Wi-Fi. Android Auto. I actually said wireless. They never said Wi-Fi, but it's got to be Wi-Fi Direct. Like, what else would it be?
Yeah, that's the only thing it would have enough bandwidth.
Yeah. So the issue with this is people have been asking for this, and I can understand why. I also kind of find it weird, but I understand the concept of I don't want to take my phone out, and I don't care about losing the battery. Like, if that's how you live your life, you do you. So what they said was, this isn't going to work with any current car with Android Auto. It requires hardware changes in the car, and obviously the car would have to be capable of doing a Wi-Fi direct connection. And I assume the head unit would probably have to have the little listener pieces that are in the head unit for Android Auto would have to know to listen for the Wi-Fi direct connection too. So basically, if your car has Android Auto right now, it probably won't ever support Android Auto over Wi-Fi. Probably. I know that some GM products have very robust Wi-Fi features with the hotspotting and everything, so maybe it could be hacked in there, but maybe not at all. I mean, it's total speculation. But I would doubt if they did an update or anything. I haven't asked them yet, but I'd be surprised. Google said they were going to demo it in the press release we received, and then they didn't. It wasn't ready for demoing. And all they said was, yep, it's going to be a thing. It's there. The fourth thing was OEM apps, which I think was actually the most important thing, not from a user experience perspective particularly, but from hey, Android, Google and car makers are having discussions about using car data, which is good. So OEM apps, Honda and Hyundai are the first partners for this. The fifth tab in Android Auto that looks like the gauge cluster.
It doesn't do anything right now.
Exactly. It doesn't do anything in Android Auto right now. Hyundai and Honda both built concept apps for this. And so the idea is you will download Hyundai and Honda apps from the Play Store, and once you have those on your phone, this fifth tab will be populated with items that can have projected, data from the phone from those apps.
Presumably this will require a car that's shipped with Android Auto.
Oh yeah, the chances it's going to work with an aftermarket head unit is 0%.
Yeah.
And just to remind everybody, Android Auto is completely, utterly closed. There is nothing open about Android Auto at all. So, Google holds all the keys. And I think the reason this is significant is that car makers are finally trusting Google to say, well, all right, we'll build these apps as long as we can have sole custody of the data, whatever the source is, from the car, and we can display it in the Android Auto interface. And so I think a lot of it is probably basically assurances from Google that third parties won't ever get this data in a harvestable form, and that Google itself probably won't get access to it. The way Hyundai is doing it is ridiculously convoluted. So Hyundai's cars have 3G modems in them, and so you have to sign up for a subscription every year called BlueLink. It's a couple $100 a year, I think.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it's not. Well, it's a car. It goes into your car payment, and so they charge whatever the hell they want. And so instead of sending data over the CAN bus into the head unit and then to Auto, they send car data from the car over the CAN bus to the 3G modem to the cloud, where it is then processed on the Hyundai BlueLink servers, which then go down back to your smartphone over a mobile network, and then your smartphone pushes the car data into the Android Auto projected mode.
That's
seriously,
without a doubt, one of the stupidest things I've ever heard.
It's because these car makers are so protective of the vehicle data. They don't want Google getting it, or third parties.
Like, is transmitting it through 20 different networks safer than just like sending it to the phone?
It's not safety so much as Hyundai already does this with the BlueLink app, and they're like, listen, we'll just make the BlueLink app go through this way. It's in Honda, I assume the way they do it, it's the infotainment unit has access to isolated vehicle diagnostics and statistics that have been translated from the CAN bus. That's not direct access to the CAN bus. It's an isolated system. And so I assume that's where Android Auto would be getting that information in the Honda situation. So, but it shows that there's more trust coming from car makers. And I think that's pretty important. And that also leads to the Android in the Car OS, which is a concept built by Google and Qualcomm inside of a Maserati. Maserati didn't actually have anything to do with it. Qualcomm built a car, gutted the dash out, put some screens in it, and Snapdragon 820, and Google put Android's CarOS concept on there. It looks really cool. We're already going long on this, and I would just say check it out. It's not something you're going to see on your car anytime, probably in the next 5 years, realistically.
Well, you're never going to see it on. You're never going to see it on the car you have now. That's for sure.
That's absolutely correct, unless you buy a tablet and mock up the interface and like tape it to your dashboard.
I'm sure.
Then you could see it there.
Yeah, there'll be a post on Reddit of somebody doing this. I'm sure.
And it'll be a link to XDA.
Yeah, for sure. Step-by-step instructions. All right, so let's talk about Android Instant Apps, mainly because I don't really understand what it is. So apparently now there's the ability in Android to open up apps that you don't have installed on your phone.
Yeah, and I think honestly this is probably the most important announcement of the show, but I don't know. I think it's very interesting what they've done here. We knew this was coming. They had basically demoed the concept before, but it's going to work on Android 4.4 and up. And the idea is so like when you click a mobile link, when you click a link that somebody gives you, and it's like a link to Facebook, and you don't have the Facebook app installed, and so it goes to the mobile site, but then the mobile site's like, you should install the Facebook app. The idea is that you could then, instead of this awful situation, and Facebook's a bad example because you have to log in, but the idea is that, well, no, instead of doing that, the Play Store just comes in, downloads, and Facebook installs really slow. So it's actually the worst example I could have.
They used B&H as an example of this. If you were going to buy something.
But the idea is that it only downloads the portions of the app, the content it sees that it knows it needs. And so it's like apps assemble on the fly. Like it's like app Voltron.
So like with the B&H thing, it was like a link to a camera, and so it just downloaded a chunk of the B&H app and showed you like the camera's product page, and you could like add it to your cart, and it would like offer you the option to like download the rest of the app if you wanted to continue using it.
Yeah. And it basically, one of the big things people said, it'll save you from those god-awful dialogues on mobile websites where it's like, do you want our app?
Have you installed Tapatalk yet?
Oh.
Oh, yeah, Tapatalk will be the #1 use for this feature.
Oh, that developer won't do it.
Oh, probably.
So, yeah, one little thing I found interesting about the demos is they talked about how you would download just the portion necessary for the B&H page to show you the camera, and then you tap the thing and it would add to your cart and you could check out with Android Pay and blah, blah, blah. The funny thing is they kind of conveniently dodged do you download multiple sections at some point, like as you start adventuring more into the app, or do you like at some point, is it intelligently picking up different parts? Does it have to be told? Like they avoided a lot of the deeper details.
Yeah, and I think that's it's probably a work in progress, but it seems getting like close to being ready. I'm very curious to try it out because the thing also is that this competes direct, and you know what the B test of this is? It's the progressive mobile web page or progressive mobile web apps or whatever. Progressive web apps. So, do we build a web page that feels like an app, or do we build an app that loads like a web page? Right? That's basically what this is.
I don't think that's the A/B test so much as, hey, Android developers, here's a thing you can do that acts kind of like web pages. And the other one is, hey, web developers, here's this thing you can do. It's basically Android apps, but it's in the language you know. They're selling
I guess,
to
okay, that makes sense. Yeah, okay. That does make more sense. I guess from a business perspective especially.
Yep.
What you know is what you want to do.
All right, so that's Android Instant Apps. I think the thing that's kind of cool about it is that the average user will never even know it's happening. They're just going to see a good experience, right?
You're like, hey, this website looks much better than I thought it would look.
Right. So native experiences without the customer even knowing that anything's going on. That's probably the ultimate takeaway. Next, we've got some interesting developments in the way that Android N is going to be doing updates. So apparently, it's going to be able to download and install an update basically on a separate partition, and when you reboot your phone, it just boots to that partition, which I wish it would have done that just now.
It'll basically be like a Chromebook if
Like
you've
a
ever
Chromebook.
used one of those.
Yes.
You just see like, oh, there's a new update. Would you like to restart? And you restart the Chromebook, and it's done.
Yeah.
It's one of the coolest things about Chromebooks, and Android will be able to do that in Android N, and apparently just with devices that ship with N, not things that are updated to N.
And apparently Google's even saying, yeah, we don't think every one of our partners is actually going to want to do this. So
I mean, that would be really lame because it sounds super, super cool. So yeah, it has two partitions, one online, one offline, and when there's an update, it downloads it and installs it on the offline partition, and you restart, and it just loads that one instead of the other one. So then if something goes wrong, it's still got that other one to default back to.
yeah, it's very cool, and especially with monthly security updates, that's really why we want this. now.
Sometimes I have those sitting on my phone or my tablet for a couple days because I'm like, I don't want to like restart and wait for it to do the whole install thing, and
Yeah.
But so what I'm wondering about is the apps though, like the updating apps garbage. I remember there being a story about that going away, but
that's
yet it
mostly gone. It's
Well, I
like
mean, I
really,
can
really
watch
fast and
I literally just updated my Nexus 9 before the show started to the developer preview 3, and it did it.
well, it's still there. It's just really fast.
Yeah, this is separate, so those would live on like the data partition, I guess. And so unless you wanted dual data partitions, which wouldn't make much sense,
No, that would
optimize them all in the background.
that would be terrible.
Yeah.
But- But I guess the point I'm making is seamless might not be the right word.
I think that it's much more seamless in the current system, though.
Well,
Yeah.
it hides the slowdowns in various ways. So it's not seamless, but you won't see it unless you're looking for it, I guess,
Okay, but
or
the size of
unless
the
you
seam-
kind of look at the right time.
But you have to think of
The size of the
the name literally. Like there's a seam caused by the updating process. The time between using the phone and not using it is the seam. The seam is now smaller. I would not quite say seamless, but the seam has been downsized substantially.
It's seam minimized.
Yes, seam minimized updates. Google is reducing the seam. They're
That's
disrupting the seam.
All right, so we're getting a sustained performance mode in Android N. So that's I guess your phones won't be catching on fire in your hands, I think is the general takeaway from this.
Okay, so what does this actually technically do? I was reading this and I'm still not really clear. So is this like dynamic resolution adjustment or something?
I
Those
guess
two different
sort of.
things.
It was not really clear to me how this is a distinct
Okay,
feature.
hold on. Sustained performance mode versus you said the display resolution thing.
No, I'm talking. So this says it optimizes apps windows and tune them for predictable, consistent level of device performance over long periods of time.
Okay.
Windows would apply to me like they're dynamically adjusting the resolution. The
Yeah,
rendering.
that's not a resolution thing. They're using a term that's correct, but I'm pretty sure they're talking about something completely unrelated. They're talking about like basically your performance envelopes. So, have you ever played a game where it plays awesome for like 30 seconds and then your phone heats up, it performs like garbage after that? In theory, I'm pretty sure this is supposed to basically lock it into a performance envelope that will never get to the point that it chugs. It'll just downgrade right from the start and stay at a steady, even pace from that point on. At least I think that's what it was.
So it'll suck the whole time instead of
Yeah.
only eventually.
It will suck.
Uh-huh.
It'll suck a little less, but it won't ever suck quite as bad as it did before.
Well,
you
to
won't
be fair,
have
though,
suck
it gives-
spikes.
It sucks
I mean, with
spikes.
Podcast title right there.
You won't have suck spikes. Okay.
So, but doesn't that give developers though the opportunity to optimize their apps for that constant usage as
Yeah.
opposed to building an app that runs great and then you're not testing it for 3 hours. Okay, that's probably an extreme example, but you don't have to test it 3 hours to know if you have performance problems.
Right.
It's either going to be apparent right up front you have a performance problem or you don't have a performance problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I saw at least some part of the developer docs. That was the pitch, was developers could target those medium modes, and as long as they fit into that window, it was fine. But in practical terms, like in real world, I'm not sure how well this is going to play.
Oh,
I
so
don't know that
okay.
it's really going to make that big a difference.
So this requires manufacturers to provide information in the API. So the phone maker has to go in there
Oh.
and provide their own metrics about how the phone
So
phone
wait,
performs.
phone makers, not just like chipset makers, not like
OEMs. It
Well,
just says
it's gonna be all
OEMs.
Um,
It's going to be like a collaborative thing. Just the chipset provides so much information.
Yeah, so the idea
The
is,
OEM adds more.
okay, I get this now. So the idea is, okay, so let's say you're playing, Clash of Clans on your Nexus 6P, and it runs fine because King has a Nexus 6P, and they've tested it a billion times in this universe where they actually cared about Nexus devices. But you open up your LG G5, and after 30 seconds, oh man, this runs like shit. And it's because King saw the G5 and threw up and couldn't actually get through optimizing the app. And the idea is that LG can then put their information as API and be like, King, listen, you don't actually have to look at the phone. We're going to give you the data so you know how to make the game suck not quite as bad. And then it's okay. In theory.
there's a lot of
Always
hypotheticals.
in theory.
Always in theory. A lot of
Yeah.
hypotheticals going on in this hypothetical.
This is a very theory-dense feature.
Yes, it seems like it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the idea, though, is to solve those outlier situations where something runs oddly bad even though it should run good.
There you have it.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right, so next news that's been coming for some time, we've been hearing about Android apps coming to Chrome OS, and now we're getting a little bit of confirmation that that's going to happen later this year. So now, with this news, along with the availability of things like the Asus Flip, I don't know. Is there any reason to buy an Android tablet right now?
Yes, because Chromebooks are generally not that good or very expensive. So
That is kind of a thing. You either spend $200 on a kind of crappy Chromebook or $500 on a pretty good one, but then you spend $500 on a Chromebook.
yeah, this is cool, but I'm gonna wait and see. The demo they did was cool. I was there at the press conference, and it works and everything. But I'm interested to see, especially how touch target stuff translates. Was an app designed for touching everywhere going to be any good to use with a trackpad? I mean, most of them will work, but is it going to be just kind of a pain in the butt? I
They
don't know.
said that like mouse stuff would work, right?
Oh, it works.
that
Yeah,
would
it
be
definitely
automatic.
works. The mouse
So,
is
like-
your finger.
I mean, because when you take a touch interface and you put it on a computer, the worst part about it is always scrolling. If it doesn't understand that, if it's expecting you to click and drag to replicate a touch and drag, that just is a deal breaker. That makes it horrible. If it doesn't do that, I think most other issues will be surmountable.
I do not recall seeing any scrolling in the demo.
Well, let us hope that this is a thing that I mean they must be able to do this.
I would
I'd be
hope so
shocked.
too.
I'd
So
be shocked.
technically
the
speaking,
scrolling is actually a pretty easy one to solve. It's a lot of the other stuff that's like the more custom an app gets, the more unlikely that stuff is to work.
yeah, I also think I still personally find the issue with Google has this idea where everything should look the same on any device. It doesn't matter if it's touch or pointer based. But for me, it's like, yeah, I can handle way higher information density on something with a pointer because it's a pointer and it's very precise. And whereas finger is my finger is a certain diameter at the tip. Whereas the mouse pointer is very, very small. So maybe that's more personal. But yeah.
Well, I mean, look,
Maybe
you'll be able
file
to
your finger off to a point.
Yeah. So look, you'll be able to play Hearthstone on your Chromebook though. So.
Yep. And I'm sure it'll run like crap because Hearthstone runs like crap on anything that Blizzard hasn't tested it on before. It's a universal truth.
All right, so
Okay.
last two stories we have, both a little bit on the ATAP side. So Project Ara, something we've been hearing about quite a bit for quite a time. Apparently, dev editions starting to ship this fall. So if you are into modular phones more than what you get from LG and friends, Project Ara apparently coming soon.
Soon, sort of, maybe, possibly
Yeah.
not. I mean, they're sending
Yeah.
out dev hardware so that people can make modules that you might actually maybe want to buy. Although I'm not really sold on the concept as it currently exists. I mean, the video has a lot of weird stuff going on. Like, there's literally a moment where a guy opens a compartment on the back of his phone and takes out a breath mint. And that's just not something I've ever really thought I need in a phone. Maybe I'm the outlier. Maybe I'm the weird one. I don't know.
Well, the phone probably smells your breath all the time. I mean, I would think that the phone
Yeah,
is
I guess.
hypersensitive.
Yeah, maybe the phone is adapting over time. Like it just says, hey, your breath is
If you're-
bad. Would you like to buy this breath mint module for $49.99?
If there's one piece of advice that I can give you is that if your phone ever offers you a breath mint, you should take it.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah. This seems like the reduced modularity. I mean, it makes sense because the CPU, GPU, and display seem very pie in the sky the whole time. Like everybody's like, "Are you really gonna be able to do that?" And Google's like, "Oh, hey!" And then they're like, "No."
Yeah, and then they realize like there's no real way to make that feasible on a mobile device.
Yeah.
So all that stuff is built into like the frame of the phone, and then the back is just like the extra stuff. So they have like different camera modules, and they showed this little like secondary display, which looks kind of neat. I could see use cases for that. And they have like a bunch of speakers and stuff, and then a bunch of just anonymous colored blocks that could be anything. They're just like placeholders right now.
Is the secondary
I don't know.
display e-ink? Because this
Yeah.
is like, it's the
It
Yoda.
looked like it. It was some sort of like monochrome thing.
Well, okay, so in the video, that may or may not have been e-ink. They don't say, and who cares? But
it's not real anyway. It doesn't matter.
They made a specific point of saying that they were already collaborating with e-ink makers, or the way they said it, they actually phrased it like, we are collaborating with e-ink. But so
They're
they do
collaborating
plan
with-
on coming out with some
We're
sort of
collaborating
e-ink
with
display.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
I think is e-ink a trademark? One of the words for that technology is actually like owned by somebody. I can't remember which one.
At Amazon, I thought.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm
At
not
any
sure.
rate, so the thing about Ara is like they're really pushing this customization angle now. And before, I feel like it was about like not being as wasteful with your phone. Like you would just upgrade the stuff in it instead of throwing it away. But now all of the important stuff is built into the frame, so they're just like, actually, you just whatever, just like add some more modules and stuff to do fun things.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which I
So-
don't know.
Well, a while back, I kind of said, hey, this is a dumb idea for like a mainstream phone, but it's kind of maybe a good way to do add-ons for a real phone. You know, Samsung or I guess LG would be the obvious one to poke at right now. You know, they could come out with a phone that would have like 2 of these slots, and hey, do you want a better camera? Yeah, stick it in there. Do you want speakers that don't suck like phone speakers? Sure, why not? Plug them in. Do you want a huge battery? Because who doesn't? That would make sense. I never saw the point of doing a whole phone with this.
Right.
I mean, the only way this makes sense is if they come up with modules that are actually interesting and compelling, and none of the little faked up demos that they've shown have really convinced me that they know that is.
I think universally, like when everybody watches the demo, for this particular demo, the big thing that sticks out is the secondary display. But who's going? I mean, what's going to use it? What's gonna put an image on there? So I have to write my app now to support the secondary display.
And maybe whoever makes the display will just make an app that does stuff.
Yeah, that just
well,
seems
that
like a pain
the one they
in the
showed
butt.
just showed like a clock or something, right?
I think it was like a wave condition thing. It was the surfer guy at the beginning that had it.
So I mean,
Well,
I feel like I know this is going way back, but you know, my wife used to have a Samsung Continuum, which had the ticker display at the bottom, and like nothing used it. It was just a complete waste of equipment. Cool concept, and I think LG has maybe done it a little bit better on the V10. But the bottom line is, when you do stuff that's gimmicky like that, like somebody has to support it. Like some piece of software has to use it. And when you're throwing a million different gimmicky options at the same phone, well, how usable is any of it going to be?
Stop talking about Samsung.
Well, fair enough.
Because who's ever built for the Edge display? There's like 3 developers, and I
also,
Samsung getting all of them.
Also, E-Ink is actually a corporation. So that's probably what they meant.
Oh,
Yeah. Interesting.
all right. Then I learned.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I gotta be honest. I never see this going to a mainstream phone, and for that matter, in that demo video, honest question. Besides the extra speakers, which I mean, you could plug in an extra speaker anytime, and at one point they plugged in a camera module, which I assume was like a big sensor camera module. Aside from these, and a breath mint container. What in here can you not do with a regular phone? That entire demo video looked like stuff you already do if you just buy a modern phone. I don't get where they were really improving on the situation.
Yeah, I mean, hence all of the just color blocks that don't appear to do anything on the back of these phones. I mean, it's a big problem that they haven't shown anything really compelling about this design.
Yeah, I think that's what the promise was. You know,
Oh,
like
David is roboting.
David, you got super robotic.
Now it is you who's the robot.
Am I still the robot?
Yes,
Oh,
you
yeah.
are.
You sound straight out of Star Wars right now.
So that's what that sounds like. Oh, interesting.
No, it was different from Matt. This is very much
more static. It was like kind of a static monster.
How about now?
Oh, it's still staticky and
Still
monstrous.
mad.
And look, Matt's just like, that's right. Now it's happy.
All right, how about now?
Whoa, that was weird. Very echoey.
Very weird.
Let me switch back. How about now?
That's
Everything
better.
is fine.
Okay. Yeah. My headphone. I was adjusting the brightness on my laptop, and I heard audio feedback, and I was like, "Huh, it's funny. It's crackling." And yeah, that great Dell isolation on the components, I guess. Ugh. That makes me feel gross about my laptop. Yeah, I was gonna say. So the whole idea that R was about, reusable smartphone, a smartphone that could have core upgrades, and essentially you just replace the bits and pieces you needed, just like a desktop PC, but even better in some ways. Was what made it so appealing, because it was like, wow, this is so different from everything we've ever seen, and it's so much, it replaces this whole issue of the upgrade cycle, which is what a lot of people find themselves, having an adversarial relationship with companies saying, you need to buy a product every 2 years, and by the way, if you don't buy one every 2 years, man, support you're going to get on your old product is going to suck. And in Project R said, listen, you can just fix what you need to fix, and it'll always be a relatively new phone. And what we've ended up with here is basically the sexiest implementation yet of the G5 and Friends.
Right.
Well, so if I get the argument for it, the argument makes a lot of sense. I love the argument. Here's the problem. It was a great thing on desktops for years, and then people stopped upgrading their desktops. Now we have laptops. Why? This is a thing that would make great sense on a laptop. No one's doing it for a reason. It's not cost effective. It doesn't really work, and there's tons and tons of little problems that come along with it.
And most people don't even care, even if it was feasible.
Yeah.
Like most people aren't going to be like, I need to get a new CPU module for my laptop. If everything still works, regular people don't care.
Yeah. I mean, it's R is cool, and the initial idea is cool. And if they come out with something, I mean, I'll still be curious to try it. But beyond that, this seems like, well, kind of admitting, we were a little too ambitious.
I have one idea or one single module that I would unquestionably agree with having here. A great camera module. Everything else sounds pretty dumb to me. But if you gave me
put that in a phone in the first place, and then why do you need a modular phone for that?
I'm thinking like an over-the-top camera module with actual interchangeable lens support and stuff like that. Something you wouldn't want to build into a phone.
But the biggest spot on that phone is still only like that big. It's not going to be so huge that they have room for real camera optics.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so we have one other hardware item, or two other hardware concepts, I guess you could say, one of which will be a consumer release product that was announced, right? Oh, we actually only have the jack card thing, because there's a Sully thing, but we haven't written about it yet.
And they don't really have a real release plan for that, but...
Yeah. So Project Jack
Card is
the jacket art.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a denim jacket that has what is effectively a touchpad built into the sleeve. And this is one of those things that it seems like a really neat idea. You've got conductive fabric built in. It's rugged. It's durable. You can throw it in the washing machine, and it's this thing that is basically kind of like a little controller on your sleeve. Kind of like Wear is like a little controller on your wrist.
That's the thing. Is I have never in my life thought, man, I wish that my jacket had a touchpad on it so that I could control my phone or something. I have only a few times been like, oh good, I have a smartwatch. I can control a thing on my phone. Never have I thought hey, my clothing should do this too. Let's.
But Ryan, are you a hip, chic, bicycle riding young male model?
I am definitely not.
I didn't think so. This gentleman seems to have a lot of use for this jacket.
I mean, he's got his jeans rolled up and his ankles showing. He's very stylish.
Hey, don't forget, there's also a scene, actually, you guys probably didn't see this. In the second video, there's a scene of them making the fabric and building it in the manufacturing plant. And at the end, super cute female model has to put on the jacket, smile, and laugh a couple times, and is like, yeah, you don't even work there. But that's awesome. Good for you.
Yeah. So, yeah, that, I guess, wraps up our official Google I/O episode, even though there'll probably be more I/O things that we talk about next week. And then and developers do 3 things, and then probably more I/O things, too. Yeah. So, this was our first I/O super episode. There will be a part 2.
But next week we'll have time to make fun of your home screens too. So don't
we should have room for that. But if you do have any more home screens that you would like us to nitpick and or ridicule, you can send us to podcast@androidpolice.com, or you can give us a call with any questions you have for the show. 530-HELLO-AP. That is 530-435-5627. You can also get a hold of us on Twitter @AndroidPolice and on Google Plus and Facebook. So thanks for listening.
And thanks again to Linode for sponsoring the Android Police podcast. You can check them out at linode.com/AndroidPolice. That's the broadcast.